Hello, we're doing a homeless social justice project interview with Dr. Ben Sorensen, who is Commissioner for District 4 in Fort Lauderdale. Ben, how are you today?
Doing great. How about you, Ron?
Doing very well.
Good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Honored.
So Ben, we're just going to go ahead and start and get into it. I just wanted to ask you, what does social justice mean to you personally?
I grew up in a family where both my parents were really committed to the idea of we are all created equal. Those who have been given opportunity to fight to ensure that equality persists both economically, legally, we're called to really do that. And so whether it's from a racial equality standpoint, whether it's from a economic standpoint, the bottom line for me is that everyone should be given an equal opportunity to excel in this amazing country.
Wonderful. Now, you were commonly referred to as the champion for the homeless. Can you explain why?
Um, you know, my concern for homeless goes back to when I was a child, and my parents would take me to homeless shelters and places where those who were homeless were participating in food sharing. And so just from an early age, I recognized the need to help and the challenges a lot of folks face on the streets. So when I was elected as a city commissioner here in Fort Lauderdale about a year and a half ago, we, like many other cities, have big homeless challenges. And I sure did not know all the solutions to it, but I felt like the best way to figure it out and help is to get down there and spend time with the homeless. And so kind of that's what I did. And through that and through bringing folks together, we were able to find some really good solutions.
Wonderful. Now, which brings me to my next question. Why do you think the city of Fort Lauderdale has a high homeless population here?
Well, when you look per capita, we're similar to all other cities our size. Fort Lauderdale, specifically within Broward County, it's a nexus for transportation. We have great medical services, hospitals here. It's also just a wonderfully appealing place to live and to stay. So through all those reasons, I think we attract folks who are homeless, but also we, to a degree, folks are forced onto our streets. We have one of the highest cost of livings when you compare cost of living versus average salary here in Fort Lauderdale, which makes it very difficult for folks to survive in reasonable accommodations. So that also, I think, contributes to our homeless population.
Okay. Now, what steps is the city of Fort Lauderdale doing to combat the homeless problem?
So I'm a big believer in when you attack a problem, you've got to do it collaboratively. You've got to have key stakeholders all working together. The government can't solve homelessness by itself. The private sector can't by itself. Nonprofits can't by itself. So what we've done is we've formed an amazing collaborative effort where the city of Fort Lauderdale is really working hand in hand with the county, as well as with private businesses, service providers. We're all working together really for the first time ever. And not only pitching in from a funding standpoint, but pitching in from a solution standpoint and also from a planning standpoint. How can we get to zero homelessness in the city of Fort Lauderdale? And the only way we're doing that in the most effective way is us all working together.
Wonderful. Now, has homelessness ever affected you personally?
So I've had very close friends that are homeless. When I was elected, I moved my office from City Hall down to the homeless encampment here in Fort Lauderdale. And as a result, I became very good friends with a lot of the folks that were homeless and living down there. And through all working together, this collaborative effort I mentioned, we're able to move all those about 120 folks into housing with case manager support. And so that day when we literally loaded people into cars and brought them to their apartments was actually a bittersweet day for me. It was exciting because my friends were now getting into homes, but it was actually sad because I knew that our relationship would change. I wouldn't see them as often and so forth.
You were one of the architects of Community Court, the first in Florida. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yep. So Community Court's the first court like this in Florida, as you mentioned. And it is focused on the idea of, for years and years, what we've done when someone is homeless and is arrested for a nonviolent misdemeanor, They are brought into the county jail, they're in process, they stay there a day, 2 days a week, and then are released back onto the streets. And we've done nothing to really help address the systemic issues that brought them onto the streets in the first place. So what community court does is when a homeless person is arrested for a nonviolent misdemeanor, instead of going to the jail, they actually come here to the city of Fort Lauderdale to the community court, which is held here in our city commission chambers. Judge Tudor is the chief judge for Broward County. He presides at community court, as does Judge Barner, just great judges. And the sentencing that happens at the community court is not go to jail for a day or two or a week. The sentencing is look around the room. There's service providers, housing providers, caseworkers. You are now going to go meet with that service provider, get the assistance you need, get the housing you need, get this case management support you need, and help you get on your feet permanently. That is game-changing, one of the most innovative projects that has ever happened in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and the results are tremendous.
And what are some of the criticisms that it's facing?
Well, I would say some of the challenges we face with community court are probably twofold. One is a funding standpoint, so it's grant funded. So our grant runs out in 2020, so we are currently pursuing more grant opportunities to sustain it. Another one is we just need more volunteers. We need folks like you, like me, anyone that's willing to help. It's on Wednesdays at the Fort Lauderdale City Commission chambers from 11 a.m. to about 1 p.m. So if anyone's interested in just helping support these folks as they're coming through the process, you'll get trained. That's another big need we have.
And currently, what is the success rate of community court?
So we've had about 85 folks come through community court. We've had about 19 graduates who have fully gone through the entire program and are already succeeding. And the ones who have not graduated, as it were, through this are on the pathway to do so.
Okay, wonderful. Now, how can someone like me want to get involved? Like, where should we go? How?
Yeah, so if you're interested, send me an email. My email is bsorensen, BSORENSEN at fortlauderdale.gov, bsorensen at fortlauderdale.gov. Just send me an email and say, hey, I'm interested in getting involved in community court. I'll connect you with the director for community court, and we'll plug you right in, and we'll take as much time as you can give, even if it's just one Wednesday a month or 2 Wednesdays a month.
And one last thing, Ben, where do you personally see this program, or where the city stands as far as homeless in the next 3 to 4 years, where everything stands?
Sure. So we've got to be very aggressive with homelessness. We have to continue to fund this, and the state of Florida has not been funding it as to the levels they should. So we need to continue to advocate to our state legislature, state senate, that we need funding for these programs. We also, in the county and the city, need to do a better job of building more affordable housing, more workforce housing. If we don't build housing that folks who are in the service sector economy that we live in today, if we don't have reasonable places where they can live with reasonable rent, our homeless population is going to continue to increase. So I'm committed to doing that from a city level, and we need to do more of that at the county and the state level as well.
Wonderful. Dr. Sorensen, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.